For today's screencast, we're going to annotate the poem Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. Before we do that, though, let's review what annotating is and is not. When we annotate, we do the following. We take notes directly on the poem, ask questions, define words we don't know. We look for repeated words and reflect on those ideas. Look for techniques the writer is using. Analyze the connotation of words chosen. And remember, annotating is not simply highlighting the entire document. So let's go ahead and listen to the poem read by the actress Viola Davis.
Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a-climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
Okay. The first thing I notice on the very first line is the words son and I'll. And I'm guessing that the speaker is a mother speaking to her son. So I'm going to write that here. Sometimes students think the speaker must be the poet or writer, but that's not necessarily true. When she says life for me ain't been no crystal stair, I'm going to circle the word crystal because I think crystal connotes, that means it suggests what words what images does the word come to mind? And I think crystal is something of value, so I'm going to write that down here. But that's not her life. Let's look at the contrast here. Her life has had tacks in it, splinters, boards torn up, places with no carpet on the floor, and bare. And I think all of that is evidence of a difficult life. Next, I notice she begins the 8th line with the word but. And but signifies a sense of transition. And I notice that she's going to contrast all of these difficulties with something else using the word but. And let's look at the words here. She's climbing on, she reaches landings, turning corners, sometimes going in the dark where there's been no light. And that tells me it is scary. Even though her life has been difficult, it's not been a crystal stair. In these lines here, been climbing on and reaching landings, that tells me that the speaker keeps going. Next, she uses her son's, or she speaks to her son with the word boy. And now she's speaking directly to him again. Don't turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps. And I think that suggests giving up. Because you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now. And mother says, I still going, honey. I still climbing. And she ends with a line that she said previously in the 2nd line of the poem. And when we see repetition, we note that for emphasis, which I wrote here, repetition for emphasis. Now what I'm going to do is take these annotations and I'm going to try to convert it into a well-written paragraph. Essentially, what does this poem mean? The poem Mother to Son by Langston Hughes is about a mother's message to her son about not giving up. She uses the metaphor of a staircase to communicate life's difficulties. For example, the staircase has splinters and boards torn up, but Mother is still climbing, and the son should too. So for your homework, I'd like you to read and annotate Langston Hughes' poem Peace using the same techniques I showed you here.